So what I poured you is our chocolate oatmeal stout. It's about 15 or 20% peat. I honestly can't remember. It was one of those days, you know, that's how things go. But we wanted to do kind of a gateway, a segue, a icebreaker into peat for a lot of regular beer people in town. We're a beer town. Cheers. Cheers to beer. Cheers to whiskey. This is kind of a cool, I call this beer whiskey or whiskey beer. I hashtag those things all the time in a lot of my posts. So once again, we're getting a lot of beer people coming to us because they're looking to see, well, what's new? There's 138 or 140 brews now in the county, but what's new? What's out there to drink? Come on, let's get our palates a little developed. So we're starting to take the beer element and trying to cross it maybe into scotch, into some American stuff. So that's why we added so much peat to this. You definitely get the stout quality on this. There's that big roasted chocolate quality about this. And then there's a phenol. Phenol is what I always refer back to anything smoky. You know, smoked fish, smoked barbecue, peated whiskey has this phenol that's smoky, and it adds a really unique characteristic to almost anything touches. That's why people are always hit or miss on smoky anything. But I wanted to kind of make this as a segue into peated whiskey because it's sweet, it's roasted, it's chocolatey. Oh. This is an amazing whiskey. It's one of my favorite things we currently have right now. We did a single batch of this. It's going to sell out very soon. Yes. We already sold out of our first barrel. We're on a barrel and a half. We're on a second barrel. We're half through that barrel, and I have another barrel that's going to be released later this year. But this is all limited release, and this is just, I feel, a really, really unique whiskey. And I want to get beer drinkers into whiskey because I think you can do an awesome tasting where we could get a whiskey like this. And we could get a beer and start doing beer whiskey tastings, which is what I've been promoting to a couple local bars. I think making whiskey is one of the best things in the world. One of my favorite things that we have here is one of our small barrel rooms, which has a lot of massively experimental stuff in here. We're really unique in a lot of things we do because I wanted to take very much a brewery approach into making whiskey. So if you look at a lot of the faces on a lot of these barrels, they're all different. They all have something completely different on them because I'm not really shooting for massive production, but I want to really explore the opportunity that is available within whiskey. So like this barrel over here, this is really pretty incredible, and I think it's really fun. This is a whiskey that's based upon one of our core whiskeys, which is called our single malt. It's just a pretty simple name. However, our single malt recipe is based upon a Russian Imperial Stout. It uses 7 different types of grain: two-row, Vienna, roasted, crystal, special B, chocolate, and black. And this barrel is very special to me because this barrel came from Demptos from Napa region, and it is 100% a cognac region French oak. So we put this really, really unique single malt recipe anyway into a French oak barrel, and it just gives it this really, really beautiful, soft, tannic quality about it with this really amazing, buttery, really nice. On the nose, it's just like it's cherry and butterscotch, and there's always a little bit of pepper kind of in French oak. Oh my God, I love this stuff. And it's just unlike American whiskey. I hate the word harsh or rough, but I find American oak a little rough. I mean, we love it. I love it. Everything we age is pretty much an American oak. But there's a refinement about the French oak that is just so incredible and so beautiful. This is far more unique than anything we've ever made. I can chew on this whiskey for probably a minute, and it's just soft and amazing. And it's at 112 proof. This just drinks so easy and clean, and God, if I could probably make one thing for the rest of my life, I would probably make peated whiskey aged in a barrel like this, or even this single malt aged in a barrel like this. Okay, so we're back here. We're finally in the distillery. which we are one of the smallest distilleries in the United States. You can look around right here. All of our production happens right, literally, from those 2 tanks, 2 fermentation tanks, to our still over here. We have 2 blending tanks that are right here. All of our production happens right here. So here we have our still, which sometimes I like to refer to as Zelda, which is, a lot of us would know, is an old kind of Nintendo game. Zelda's kind of my girl. She makes all of our whiskey. And it's really unique, our process that we do. I feel like let me say this in another way. I've been to about 100+ breweries myself and my wife and I, and we've been about 20+ distilleries, and we learned something from everybody. Every time I went and saw a brewer, I said, "Hey, what's that? What's that? Hey, what are you doing over there in the corner? Wait a minute, no, what's going on over here?" And I tried to learn from these brewers, especially ones that were in a small space, to how to maximize and be efficient with a small use of space. So we learned a lot from a lot of breweries that we've been to. So I feel that we're pretty unique in what we do here. We make 100% of our spirits in this much space. It's about 200 square feet. 100% from grain to glass. Grain to glass. We do all of our mashing, fermentation, distillation, bottling, cutting, everything in this much space. So it brings it back to her. Zelda is a jacketed still. This very outside of the jacket is filled with a transfer oil. There are electrical elements that heat up the oil that inside hits a smooth jacket. Well, what that allows us to do, that allows us to distill with all the grain in here at the same time. People always ask on our peated whiskey, or any of our whiskeys, how do you get such big flavor profile? How do you get such aerodynamic, what's the word I'm looking for?
Start that, just back up and say that again.
So people always ask me, how do you get such big flavor profile? How do you get such big aromatic? And you know what? A lot of that comes from how we do our fermentation and distillation. We mash with all the grain, of course. In a general brewery, after mashing, they would lauter it off and ferment out clear beer into a big fermenter. Well, we mash with the grain and we ferment with all the grain. So say we do 200 gallons of wash, there's between 400 and 475 pounds of grain in the wash at the same time while it's fermenting. When that wash is done, we pump that into the still. So right now with the 100 gallons, there is about 225 pounds of grain of corn and Vienna malt, this is actually bourbon we're distilling right now, in the still at the same time. I related a lot back to cooking. When you're making lobster bisque or tomato sauce or something super awesome in your house, and your whole house smells, you walk into the kitchen, oh my God, it smells awesome. All those volatiles and aromatics, they were all lost in your air. Well, distilling is a closed process. That vapor starts to travel from right here and it will go up the column. Well, you know what? When it goes up the column and comes back down and gets condensed, all of that gets locked into the flavor profile and finally comes out in the clear spirit. So, if you've ever been to a brewery, go and ask to taste their mash when it's done, or if they have any sitting around. You know what? The old mash is beautiful. To me, it's kind of a waste. There's so much flavor, aromatic, awesome stuff that's happening in that mash. I don't get why a lot of these places want to throw it away and not use it. You know what? Maybe it's just the way I do things. Maybe it's our big kind of profile. But I just want to make the biggest, boldest, most insane whiskeys that we can. And I think we're kind of there.